Before we starting the video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. The school bell rang, signaling the start of another day at Crestwood High School. Students hurriedly made their way to their classrooms, chatting and laughing along the way. Among them was Brian Taylor, a quiet and unassuming young man who came from a less privileged background than his classmates. Brian's family had fallen on hard times, and his clothes had seen better days. He wore faded, threadbare jeans and a worn-out hoodie that barely protected him from the chilly morning air. His shoes, scuffed and worn, had lost their luster long ago. As Brian entered the school gates, whispers and giggles followed in his wake. His appearance was in stark contrast to the affluent students who filled the halls of Crestwood High. Some students called him names, pointing and laughing at his tattered clothes. Brian kept his head down, trying to ignore the taunts. But deep inside, he felt the weight of their judgment. It was a daily struggle, but Brian remained determined to rise above the circumstances that threatened to define him. In the midst of the ridicule, Judith Duncan, a popular and compassionate student, caught a glimpse of Brian. Her curiosity was piqued by the stark contrast between his appearance and the person she believed him to be. Judith had seen Brian quietly helping his classmates, offering support and encouragement without seeking anything in return. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story. One day, during a lunch break, Judith mustered up the courage to approach Brian. She found him sitting alone on a bench, his eyes fixed on the ground. Judith sat down beside him, her voice filled with kindness and genuine concern. "Hey, Brian, mind if I join you?" she asked softly. Brian glanced up, surprised by Judith's unexpected company. His eyes met hers, and for a brief moment, he saw a flicker of compassion and understanding. "Sure," he replied, his voice tinged with a hint of vulnerability. Judith hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. "Brian, I've noticed how some people treat you here. It's not fair. You deserve better," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. Brian shrugged, a faint smile crossing his lips. "I'm used to it, Judith. People judge based on appearances, but they don't know the whole story," he replied, his voice tinged with a touch of sadness. Curiosity burned within Judith, and she couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that Brian had a hidden truth to share. "Brian, if you're comfortable, I'd like to know your story. I believe there's more to you than what meets the eye," she said gently. Brian looked into Judith's eyes, his guard slowly lowering. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "All right, Judith, but promise me you won't judge," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Judith nodded, her gaze unwavering. "I promise. Brian, I'm here to listen, not to judge," she replied, her tone filled with empathy. And so, Brian began to share his story with Judith, revealing the struggles his family had faced. His father, once a successful businessman, had been betrayed by a trusted partner, leading to the loss of their wealth. Overnight, their comfortable life turned into a daily battle to make ends meet. Brian's voice trembled as he recounted the painful moments when his family's financial stability crumbled. He described how they had to sell their luxurious home and move to a modest apartment, the nights filled with worry and uncertainty. The burden of their financial woes had forced him to wear second-hand clothes and accept hand-me-downs, marking him as different among his affluent peers. As Judith listened intently, her heart ached for Brian and his family. She realized that the judgment and mockery he faced were merely shallow reactions born out of ignorance. Deep down, Brian was a resilient and compassionate young man, fighting against the odds to pursue his dreams. Determined to make a difference, Judith stood up from the bench, her eyes shining with determination. "Brian, you deserve to be seen for who you truly are. Let me help you show the world your strength and potential," she declared, extending her hand to him. Brian hesitated for a moment, touched by Judith's offer. He took her hand, feeling a surge of hope coursing through his veins. "Thank you, Judith. Your belief in me means more than you'll ever know," he whispered, his voice filled with gratitude. With their friendship sealed in that simple gesture, Judith and Brian embarked on a journey of transformation. Judith rallied their classmates, sharing Brian's story and opening their eyes to the true depth of his character. The once mocking whispers were replaced with whispers of admiration and respect. Candy Haig, a wealthy and entitled student who had previously joined in the ridicule, found herself captivated by the changes unfolding around Brian. She had once reveled in flaunting her family's riches, but seeing the strength and resilience in Brian's eyes stirred something deep within her. Approaching Brian one day, Candy offered him a sincere apology. "Brian, I've been blind to the struggles you faced. I'm sorry for the way I treated you," she said, her voice filled with genuine remorse. Brian looked at Candy, his eyes softening with forgiveness. "Thank you, Candy. People make mistakes, but what matters is how we learn from them," he replied, his voice filled with understanding. Candy, inspired by Brian's graciousness, decided to use her privilege and connections for good. She organized a clothing drive, urging her fellow students to donate their gently used clothes to those in need. The response was overwhelming, with bags overflowing, the clothes pouring into the donation boxes. As the day of the clothing distribution arrived, Brian stood before a sea of neatly organized clothing racks, his heart swelling with gratitude. The once empty hallways of Crestwood High were now filled with the bustling energy of students and teachers, united in their efforts to support their fellow classmates. Students lined up, each one receiving a warm smile and a carefully selected outfit. Brian, now dressed in clothes that fit him properly, felt a newfound sense of confidence radiating within him. The act of kindness had touched not only his life but the lives of those around him. Austin Gustman, Candy's privileged boyfriend, observed the changing dynamics at the school with growing unease. He had always enjoyed the power and attention that came with his social status, but Brian's presence challenged his dominance. Fueled by jealousy and a need to regain control, Austin hatched a plan to undermine Brian's newfound popularity. He spread false rumors, attempting to tarnish Brian's reputation and diminish the impact of his transformation. However, Austin's plan backfired. The students who had once mocked Brian were no longer swayed by Austin's words. They had seen the sincerity in Brian's actions, witnessed his resilience, and felt the positive impact he had on their school community. Austin's desperate attempts to tarnish Brian's reputation only served to expose his own insecurities and pettiness. Meanwhile, Cornelia Thompson, an inspiring and wise teacher, had been observing the events unfolding at Crestwood High. She recognized the transformative power of empathy and kindness, and she saw in Brian a remarkable potential waiting to be nurtured. Cornelia approached Brian one afternoon, her gentle smile and wise eyes conveying a sense of genuine care. "Brian, I have been watching your journey unfold, and I am immensely proud of you. Remember, it is not the clothes we wear or the wealth we possess that defines us, but the strength of our character and the kindness we show to others," she imparted, her voice filled with wisdom. Brian nodded, his gratitude for Cornelia's guidance evident in his eyes. "Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Your belief in me has meant the world," he replied, his voice filled with appreciation. Under Cornelia's mentorship, Brian's academic potential flourished. He discovered a passion for storytelling and began to write thought-provoking essays and short stories that captivated his teachers and classmates alike. Brian's words resonated deeply with those who read them, his experiences of perseverance and compassion shining through each carefully crafted sentence. As the school year drew to a close, Crestwood High celebrated its annual talent showcase. Students from various backgrounds showcased their skills and passions, creating a vibrant tapestry of creativity and resilience. Brian stood nervously backstage, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and apprehension. He had decided to share his writing with the school community, exposing his vulnerabilities and triumphs through his words. The time came for Brian to take the stage, and as he stood before his peers, the room fell into a hushed silence. His voice, steady but filled with emotion, carried his story through the auditorium, touching the hearts of all who listened. There were tears and nods of understanding as Brian's words painted a vivid picture of his journey, his struggles, and the power of empathy. The audience was moved by his courage and inspired by his unwavering spirit. As Brian concluded his performance, the auditorium erupted into thunderous applause. Standing ovations filled the air, an outpouring of admiration and respect for the young man who had defied societal expectations and found strength in the face of adversity. Among the crowd, Judith, Miguel, Candy, and even Austin clapped their hands vigorously, their faces reflecting a mix of pride, humility, and newfound appreciation for the power of compassion. The following day, Crestwood High was abuzz with conversations about Brian's performance. The school had been forever changed by his story, with students and teachers inspired to look beyond appearances and extend kindness to those who needed it most. The once hurtful whispers and taunts had been replaced by conversations of empathy and understanding. The students of Crestwood High had learned a valuable lesson in the impact of their words and actions, vowing to create a more inclusive and compassionate environment. Brian, now regarded as a symbol of resilience and compassion, continued to flourish academically and personally. With the support of his newfound friends and mentors, he earned a scholarship to a prestigious university. Setting his sights, Brian, now regarded as a symbol of resilience and compassion, continued to flourish academically and personally. With the support of his newfound friends and mentors, he earned a scholarship to a prestigious university, setting his sights on a future filled with endless possibilities. Judith, Miguel, Candy, and Austin had all undergone transformations of their own. Judith had become a fierce advocate for empathy and understanding, using her platform to inspire others to look beyond appearances. Miguel had discovered a passion for community service, organizing initiatives to support underprivileged youth. Candy, humbled by her past actions, dedicated herself to philanthropy and uplifting others. And Austin, after facing the consequences of his jealousy and betrayal, embarked on a journey of self-reflection and personal growth. Years passed, and the paths of these individuals intertwined in unexpected ways. Judith, now a successful journalist, wrote a powerful article about the impact of Brian's story, which caught the attention of a renowned filmmaker named Thomas Mitchell. Inspired by Judith's words, Thomas decided to bring Brian's journey to the big screen. The movie, titled Resilient Hearts, became a box office sensation, touching the hearts of millions around the world. The premiere of Resilient Hearts became a star-studded event, attended by celebrities, dignitaries, and the people who had played crucial roles in Brian's life. The red carpet buzzed with excitement and anticipation as the cast and crew arrived, including Judith, Miguel, Candy, and even Austin, who had embarked on a path of redemption. As the lights dimmed and the movie began, the audience was captivated by the story that unfolded on the screen. Brian's journey, his struggles, and the power of empathy resonated deeply with each viewer, reaffirming the importance of compassion in a world often blinded by appearances. The film's success propelled Brian's message of resilience and kindness to an even broader audience. Brian himself had become a respected author, sharing his experiences and wisdom through best-selling books, motivational speeches, and community engagements. And so, the story of the rich man's son, who came to school in dirty rags like a bum, but defied expectations with his resilience and compassion, became a symbol of hope and inspiration. His journey reminded the world that our worth lies not in material possessions or societal labels, but in the kindness we show and the impact we have on others.